Alright, we're back again, and I'm really excited about this one. This was a great find, completely random. I actually found this game looking on GameHead.com. If you haven't checked that out, they're a great blog, lots of good resources, tons of information about games, both old and new. But I heard about the expansion, and I had not seen the very first game. So it's I've heard it pronounced two ways. I've heard it pronounced GOSU, and I've heard it pronounced GOSU. Either way you like it, this game is awesome. Just looking at it right here, here's some of the basic components you get in the game. This game, so you know, is pretty much cards. That's it, just cards. There are some tokens. There is a thing called the advantage token, which is very important. There are activation tokens, 2 for each player. It is a 2 to 4 player game. And there are victory points, with the goal being to be the first person to get 3 victory points. You'll notice at first the box is absolutely gorgeous, and pretty much everyone who reviews this will tell you that, but it really is. It's very simple, it's very basic, and there's not too much to it. It's kind of minimalistic. The back is very simple, shows you some cards on the back and kind of a little bit about the game, both in English and I think that's either French or German, probably German. But inside the box, the artwork continues, which is really kind of cool and kind of interesting. It's different. There is a lot of comedy to this, as you can imagine, as it is all Goblins. There is a lot of fun to this. Basically what this game is about building up a Goblin army, being the strongest Goblin army to defeat your opponents during what they call the Great Battle, and being able to gain victory points through winning those great battles. Now, inside the game, there are actually 5 different clans of Goblins. There are the Ancient Goblins, which are white, the Alpha Goblins, which are green, the Dark Goblins, give you a guess here, they're black, yes, the Mecha Goblins, who are blue or kind of steel looking, and then the Fire Goblins, which are, shocker, red. I know, that's amazing. The other thing that's kind of nice about this, the rule book is really cool, and as you can tell from the picture on the rule book, this Uncle Sam looking kind of goblin, lots of comedy, but really cool comedy. The artwork, again, I cannot say enough about the artwork. The artwork is just absolutely beautiful in this game, both from a card design perspective and from an actual card. I'm going to show you a few of them. I have mine sleeved, and I'm hoping that these are going to come through okay. So, for example, here is a Dark Goblin. This is a Dark Goblin Avenger. He is a level 1. There are 3 different levels inside of the game. He has a mutation cost of 3, we'll get into that in a little bit, and he's worth 2 victory points during a great battle. So up here that shows the clan from the Dark Goblins, the level, 1, 2, or 3, mutation cost if there is any, and then the victory points, or excuse me, the points that they are worth when determining the great battle winner. And you'll notice that there are some nice things on here like trap, zombie cards, or zombie mutation, and things like that. And we'll get into that in a second. Here is a level 2. This is one of the Steel Goblins. This is a Manor. He again, Steel, level 2, 3 mutation, 3 points because he's a level 2. And then he has the mechanic of when Manor mutates, each player must discard his whole hand, then draw 5 new cards. This brings me to one of the more interesting concepts of this game. You draw once, and that's it. It's really, really interesting because the game is all about hand management and kind of resource management, but resource is really your hand in the game. What happens is when you start the game out, everyone's going to get 7 cards. And then what happens when you play those cards and the effects of those cards either coming into play or other cards affecting them when they come into play are going to force you to draw more cards, which is really kind of crazy and kind of fun. To show you some of the examples, so here's a level 3. This is one of the Goblins, the Ancient Goblins. This is Mind. When Mind comes into play, each player adjusts his hand to 4 cards, either by drawing or discarding. So if this was the last card in my hand and I put him into play, I would draw 4 cards. If you as my opponent had 8 cards in your hand, you would discard 4 cards. So it's pretty crazy. Now the concept is that it's played in the best reference I've heard of this is a tableau. So you have level 1s, level 2s, and level 3s. And they will then go from left to right. The first card that you play is free. So if this was the first card I wanted to put out as the Dark Goblin Avenger, I would get to play that for free. Each additional level 1 goblin I play that is of the same clan is also free. If I wish to play another level 1 from a different clan, let's say I wanted to play the Mecha Goblin Fiddler, who is really fun level 1, but he's steel. For him to come into play with already having a Dark Goblin in play, I would have to pay 2 cards, which means I would have to discard 2 cards from my hand. And the challenges of the game really shine when you get into a situation of, I really want to play Mind, but I got to get this guy out, and I'm going to have to end up discarding cards to get him out. You do burn through cards very, very fast in this game, so don't get attached to anything. If there's any advice I can give you, don't hold on to that one card thinking, oh man, this is going to be the absolute bomb later in the game, because you may need to discard it, and there also are cards that you can play to get cards back from the discard pile. For instance, Zombie Mutation, like we had talked about before. Normally what mutation means, and you'll notice for Mecha Goblin Fiddler, he has a mutation cost of 2, and for the Dark Goblin Avenger, he has a mutation cost of 3. What that means is that you could exchange them and evolve them from something in your hand to replace them. So let's say, for example, I wanted to replace the Mecha Goblin Fiddler with another level 1 character that I had in my hand, the Alpha Goblin Summoner. He is a Alpha Goblin, a green one. I would be able to spend my 2 cards and discard them, just like normal, but instead of putting him out here, I would replace him. Now, basically what would happen is the Mecha Goblin would go away and he would come into play. Now, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just spend 2 and put him right here? Well, what happens is later in the game, I'm going to have 5 level 1s out here, and I'm going to need to mutate people because you can only have 5 of any level in a row. So if I had 5 out there and I did not have my Alpha Goblin out, I could use that mutation as a way to get them into play. Now, conversely, Zombie Mutation allows me to mutate from anything in my hand or anything in the discard pile. So that is where cards that'll force your opponent to discard cards becomes very, very powerful, because it allows you to have them discard cards and then you turn around and zombie mutate and pull those cards they were going to use on you out, and of course use them on them to wreak havoc and chaos, which of course goblins love. So the game itself is actually fairly simple. Again, level 1 comes here, level 2 comes here, and level 3 comes here. They go from left to right. To play a level 2, you must have a level 1 in play of that same clan. So I could not have this card in play without having a level 1 white Goblin or Ancient Goblin. Once I have that Ancient Goblin level 1 out, then I can put a level 2 out. Once I have a level 2 out, I can put a level 3 out. And basically the way that they're pointed up is that all the level 1s are 2 points, all level 3s are 3 points, all level 1s are 2 points, all level 2s are 3 points, and all level 3s are 5 points. So once you create a column, it'll be worth 10 points, 5 plus 3 plus 2. So it's really easy to score when you get into the Great Battle. How do you get into the Great Battle? You get into the Great Battle by passing. Basically, once you're done playing cards, if you decided I want to hold some cards for a later turn or a later round, or I'm not capable of playing, then you can go ahead and pass. And once everyone has passed in the game, the Great Battle plays out. And basically, the Great Battle comes down to how many points do I have versus how many points my opponent has. So in a 4-player game, it gets pretty crazy and pretty hairy, because if I pass first, my opponents can keep playing. So if it's my turn and I pass, my person on my left can then play, a person across from me can play, a person on my right can play. I passed, so I'm out. So now it goes back to the person on the left, and those 3 keep playing while I'm kind of sitting there. So it is very dangerous to pass first, but at the same time, you're going to get to points in the game where you just can't do anything more. Activation tokens, these are used basically for cards in the game. You'll notice, for instance, on this guy, the Alpha Goblin Guardian, he has an activation symbol, and it says draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. So I would use one of my activation tokens to place on him, and then I would reap that reward. You only get 2 activation tokens per round. At the end of each round, after the Great Battle is over, you'll get those back. There are also cards in the game that will move those around and shift them all over the place, which is pretty fun. You also, conversely, if you don't have cards in play that have use of activation tokens, you can discard 1 activation token to get 1 card, or discard 2 activation tokens to get 3 cards. So there are ways that you can draw more cards. There just really is no draw phase in this game. It's draw your 7, start dropping cards, and you deal with everything that comes out, which is very much like you would think a party of goblins or a band of goblins would do. Again, I can't say enough about the artwork on this. I know I said that a lot about our last game, 7 Wonders, but this one is very unique. They've created a universe that is specific to this game. It's nothing I have ever seen before. Combines a little bit of steampunk with the steel guys, the steel goblins, a little bit of ancient kind of Japanese culture with the ancient Goblins. The closest game that I can think of in terms of artwork, and some people may get mad at me about this, but the closest game I can think of was an older game called Mutation, which I thought was a beautiful game from over a decade ago. It never really got the play it needed, but same type of style. It's somewhat cartoony, and you'll notice that some of them are very gruff and very rough. Like Mind is older and tough, and then there's some that are very campy. There's some that are absolutely gorgeous in terms of artwork. Koko Shamushu is one of my favorite cards in the game. If she comes into play as a result of a mutation, you discard your whole hand and then draw 5 cards, which is just absolutely phenomenal, especially if she's out in the discard pile and you use it on a mutation. Now, I couldn't use it on her because it's a level 1 and she's a level 2, but I could mutate a level 2 into that, which is really, really fun. There are some that are very rough looking, like the Alpha Goblins and Jaedong, and there are some that are very cute looking. Trying to find a cute one here. Here we go. Ancient Goblin Seeker. The Fire Goblins, as you can imagine, are pretty wild. The Fire Goblin Sniper, of course, is pretty comical to think of a goblin with his hair on fire and a sniper rifle. And it's one of those games that you can sit down and play really with almost anybody. Kids can love this game. This is the Dallister, who is, of course, smoking hot. It's a fun filler game, or again, it is something that you can play quite a bit extensively. It really does reward very strategic gameplay. Because there is no draw phase and it is a hand management game, you really, really, really have to manage your resources, which are your cards. And if you can do it craftfully, and if you can plan at least maybe 1 move ahead, it will reward you very much. That said, it does have some downfalls to it for anyone who is an unskilled gamer. And I say the word unskilled because I found out that GOSU in Japanese actually means a person of skill. So I think there's a little bit of a tie-in with that, and I really like that. But it really does, if you're a brand new card player, I would not pick this game up because there are a lot of mechanics and there is a lot happening, especially when you have 15 cards out in front of you. You have 5 level 1s, 5 level 2s, 5 level 3s, and when anybody mutates or has a card come into play, there's like 3 different things that trigger. There's a lot of things happening at once in this game, and part of your winning strategy is chaining those things together. But that said, those of us who are lovers of card games, lovers of deep strategy games, will really, really gain a lot from this. Definitely we'll hope to pick up the sequel to this pretty soon and get a review out for that one. But for right now, highly recommend, if you haven't tried GOSU or GOSU, whichever you'd like to call it, feel free to go out and pick it up. For anyone wondering, GOSU actually stands for Goblin Supremacy. That's the obvious nature of the game here. Build up your goblin armies, wreak havoc, and destroy your opponents. What better way to spend an evening with goblins? Hope you guys have enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon.